Welcome back, everyone. Today we're joined by a very special guest. It is actor Matthew Finlan, who you may know from the new movie Orphan First Kill. He plays the role of Gunnar Albright. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, Devin. I appreciate being here.
What was it like being on set for such a legendary movie prequel?
As someone who is and was a fan of the original, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel the pressure from the fans of the franchise because going into this, I knew that Orphan has, I mean, you can almost call it like a cult following. This little film from 2009, nobody really expected it to take off in such a way, but it did. And so when I was on the set making it, I knew that it had the potential to receive a lot of love or a lot of hate because the fans of Orphan are diehard. So yeah, I really felt that pressure. But then uh, there was also this sense of surrealism, even from the first table read, looking across at Isabelle, being like, "I know you as the orphan, and I'm reading these lines, and it's actually you. Holy cow, this is actually mind-boggling." Not to mention Ross of Sutherland and Julia Stiles are there. We're under the direction of Brent Bell. It was a dream come true. So there were a lot of times I had to sort of pinch myself and be like, I can't believe this is real, while also being like, do your job, make Gunnar a three-dimensional character who people are going to love to see die, hate to see succeed. So yeah, I had to put my own like giddiness under the surface and just realize what I was there to do. But yeah, it was awesome, and I would do it all over again if I had the chance to.
That really does sound like a dream come true. Were you a big fan of the original movie?
Oh, 100%. I was a huge fan of the original. I remember going to see it in theaters with my best friend Maggie. And yeah, we were just as startled by the twist as I think everybody else was, which is what made it such a revolutionary film at the time. And yeah, no, I remember reading the script for the first time, sort of being like, how and why are we doing a prequel? Like, what is going to be special about this one that makes it justified to be made? But then reading the script, I was like, oh, there is a twist worthy of a prequel. And so that was so cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. So a
Yeah,
huge fan of
and
the original.
yeah, I'll be going talking about the prequel or the I'll be talking about the plot twist a little later in the interview, so I got a lot of good questions about that. But how would you
Fantastic.
describe this project as being different than any other movie or show you've been on in the past?
Well, okay, first of all, this was the first movie that I'd ever made. So I wasn't really familiar with how movies are made, how it's really a marathon, not a sprint, and it is a little different from making a television show in terms of the luxury of time, specifically on this project, not every project, but in making Orphan First Kill, you really had to get it right. So you do it as many times until you get it right. And it's really luxurious in that way. Sometimes TV can be a bit more quick paced because you only have a week to make an episode. So you
Mm.
gotta, you get what you get. And that's kind of how it's going to be. On a movie, you go in with a much more clear vision of what you need to achieve in the story you're telling. So yeah, that was really fascinating to see that some takes, and especially because of the illusions and trickery we were using to make Isabelle appear smaller and younger, a lot of coverage happened. So you'd be doing a scene for 3 to 4 hours. And yeah, just like how amazing that was and learning a bit more about that world. It also stands out in terms of any other project I've done because of just the duplicitousness of the characters and the secrets and really mapping out, because when you're shooting a movie, you shoot it out of chronological sequence. So, the very first shot that we did was at the train station, which no spoilers, but if you when you watch the movie, if you choose to, that appears like way, way at the tail end of the movie. So you really have to track the trajectory of your character to know, what does the audience know that I know at this point, and what do I know at this point, so that when it gets threaded together um, in the timeline, that it actually makes sense. And so that was another challenge and something really cool to have to balance out the secrets, the truths, what we've shown, what we don't know. So yeah, that, and I mean, on a purely technical note, I've never fenced before. So this role, and it's in it just for like a moment. It's not in it as
Yeah.
much as we shot it, but that was a big day too, because I didn't think that I was going to be doing any fencing. And then Brent, the director, was like, okay, Matt, it's your turn. You go up now. And I was like, what? Okay. Okay. And I had these fantastic body doubles. And so I went to them and I was like, can you just really quickly show me what the sequence was that you did? And I have a dance background. So it was a little bit more like choreography and learning that really quickly on the fly. But freaking did it and got up there, and that was crazy. So that was a big curveball for me to learn how to just sort of jump into the scenario, say yes, and do it, because he's supposed to be, I can't remember if I made it to the final edit. I don't know if it does, but they say he's going to Yale on a scholarship. So not only did Gunnar have to fence, but he had to be a good fencer. And I wanted to know, like, how do you unclip yourself from the wire that keeps you hooked in? How do you hold your sword? How do you take off the mask? Like all of those things that would really give away a novice fencer versus someone who's done it for their whole life. So that was a challenge too, learning how to do that.
Now I
But it
know
was all
that
great fun.
Now, I know that you mentioned about the trickery, and I've done a lot of research. I made a few YouTube videos and a few TikToks, and one of them that I posted on TikTok last week actually got 2.2 million views in the last week, and everyone was talking about your character, Isabelle Fuhrman's character, and their overall thoughts of the movie. And the general feedback was really good, but the fact that I covered was the platform shoes. So I got to ask you to, of course, fact check me for my followers and fans. You guys, did you wear platform shoes? And if so, were you wearing them the entire time?
Yes. Okay. So the story with the platform shoes. First of all, I can confirm you are correct.
Thank you.
How they came about, that it was, I'm going to call it a happy accident, because our costume designer, Kim, she had gotten a single pair for Julia to wear. Um, and it was at the train station. So Julia had them on, and I was just standing on apple boxes, which are, different sizes of crates that you stand on for any numerous reasons. You can have to change eye lines. But what was hard is because when you're on a box, you can really only move like from your waist. You can't sort of get the fluid motion that you get with walking. So when Julia was on them, it was selling so well, and it was such a simple fix that 4 days later we had ordered a whole bunch of pairs off of Amazon. And then you're absolutely right. So we would shoot a scene with Isabelle, and the whole family, mom, dad, me, would be in these platform shoes, and we would map out the trajectory or the blocking of what we were going to do. And obviously the camera was at such an angle that you would never see our feet. You'd never see these boots in the movie. But then once we had done the blocking with Isabelle and it had been solidified, then we would take off the boots and we would bring in one of our child body doubles. And then we would go and do the exact same thing. And in those shots, it was really important to keep their faces hidden. And that was normally the time that you'd get our coverage. So like our faces and what we were doing and our reactions. But in doing that, it did make for a longer time shooting every scene. Like I said, we'd be working on some scenes for a couple of hours, because not only did we do all of Isabelle's coverage, but then we did all the coverage for all of the child doubles. But yeah, we wore those boots like a lot. And even during some of the fight scenes, and even at the very end of the movie when we say goodbye to Gunnar, I'm in those boots. It's crazy. Like, it was such a curveball, because you're alone, you're practicing the scene, you envision it, what it's going to be like in your head. You get to set, and you're like in the zone, and then all of a sudden they hand you a pair of 10-inch glittery boots. They go, okay, now do it in these. And you're like, I didn't practice this. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And the whole time you kind of feel like a bit of a fool, and you're walking around being like, is this working? Is this even gonna work? But then obviously you see the playback and you're like, oh, it works. It works. And of course they could never put apple boxes down for things like running down a hallway or even going up a staircase, stuff like that. So kudos to Kim. She came up with this idea, and I think it saved the movie in a small way, because it saved a lot of headaches and time in post.
So how tall were you then? Were you like, because I'm only like 5'7", so I'm not super tall, but like you said they were 10 inches.
Oh yeah, they were huge. They were
So
freaking huge.
how tall were you? Were you like nearing 7 feet, 6'5"?
Nearing.
Like,
Yeah, around there, over 6'5", and yeah, and Ross, if he's the actor who played my dad, he's quite tall to begin with.
mhm.
Um, it was hilarious to see him walking around. He literally was over 7 feet tall. Like it looked like the Slender Man or the Babadook all of a sudden just joined our movie. But it was so funny, so fun.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thank you for confirming and sharing that. Did you have a favorite scene out of all the scenes that you filmed?
Hmm. Out of all the scenes I filmed, I do think my favorite is Gunner's confrontation with Esther um, in her bathroom, because that's sort of where you get to see how Gunner thinks and operates, and whether or not we agree with it. I mean, personally, I do not agree with how Gunner thinks, but it was a really good insight to his psyche, and it's one of the few moments that Esther's character is challenged in such a way. A lot of
Mhm.
times we see her playing other people, but this was a moment she was getting played. And even when she challenges, yeah, Gunner's not afraid. And Gunner's like, you don't really know how powerful we are. Like, do you know who you're messing with? Which is just, it was such a fantastic scene, such a privilege too, to get to do that. And I mean, okay, spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert. So be careful. Do not watch this part if you haven't seen the movie yet. Um, that was such a fun scene to shoot because the slap was never in the original script. That was just an improv that we did because Brent, our director, was really keen on getting it the way it was written and then sort of letting us live it how we wanted to. And yeah, and I think he might have told Isabelle, like really let him have it on this take. But when she gives the slap and then I say do that again and I'll kill you the way I killed Esther. That was also an ad lib as well. So and to see it make the movie and to be such like a cool sizzling moment, I'm really proud of that. And yeah, it was so much fun. Just an absolute joy to shoot. It was really cool.
No, I'm glad you just said that quote because I had it written down right next to me because so you just did my job for me. So I was gonna ask you, that line was pretty terrible. Like while watching, I was like, damn, he really went there. So
Yeah.
did you do anything to get into the headspace of such a wicked character?
You know, I really I kind of just would think about that I'm untouchable. And you do have to do a job as an actor to sort of separate your own thoughts and beliefs
Mhm.
from that of your character. And Gunnar Gunnar thought he was going to become the president of the United States. You know what I mean? Like he really did think like no matter what I do, my mom is going to cover my tracks. We've got enough money to allow me to go anywhere. Like if I get kicked out of Yale, then I'm going to go to Harvard, and if that doesn't work out, then I'll do something else. And so, and I even him being a fencer, I really held on to a lot because it's a team sport, but you're doing it solo, and you really have to analyze your opponent and find their weak spot and attack and go in with agility. And so I sort of felt like that's what Gunnar was doing. Um, and with the history of the tragedy with his younger sister, but his father not knowing the truth, in a way, that's what Gunnar had been doing and playing his father a little bit like a fencer, and finding the right moments to be sympathetic, but then also be like, Dad, I think she's fucked up. Like she can draw now. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like how is that even fucking possible?
Mhm.
Sorry, I don't know if we can swear on this.
You're fine, you can.
Okay, good. How is this fucking possible, Dad? Like he's kind of trying to like poke those holes, no pun intended, as a fencer to his dad and make his father see the logic so that he can get him on his side and that the mother, the dad, and him will be able to say good riddance to this new psychopath that's come into their family. So yeah, I'm playing Gunner. I I really just wanted to make him as as maniacal as possible so that when he died, people were actually happy. Because mind you, Matthew, as the actor, I'm a huge fan of Orphan. So I was like, I want this to be a death that people are like, yeah, she got him, she killed him. So I wasn't trying to make him a fan favorite. I was like, no, let's make him a dick, like a massive asshole, so that when he's gone, people are going to feel for Esther and actually like want her to win, because that's the tricky thing when you have a an antagonist as your protagonist, to make, how do you get audiences to fall in love with this little evil psychopath who kills every other person she meets, you know? You have her run up against a character like Gunnar. So that was sort of in my mindset of playing it all the time, being like, just ooze with arrogance and ooze with entitlement and white privilege, and be what's wrong with the world, so that when he's killed, people are satisfied.
Well, I think you did a really great job. I really did like your character. But I know you mentioned that you wanted to seem like you were this asshole in a way.
Yes.
But I don't know if you know this. I found this out this week that there are a lot of TikTok edits of you, like of your character. And I don't know if these are like thirst traps or certain things like that. But I don't know. Have you seen any of them? And if so, what do you think about
I
that?
Do you know what? People have put them in my DMs, and I mean, if I get tagged, I go and I look, and I'm like, "Why you tagged me?" Because sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's someone I've never
Mm,
met, and I see them, and you know what? They just make me laugh in the best way possible. In the best way possible. I love them. I think it's a huge compliment if people identify with a character that you've played for whatever reason. You know, you make something, put it out into the zeitgeist, and however it's received, it's received. And I've never had TikTok compilations made of myself for anything I've ever done. So I just get a huge kick out of it. And some of the fan art that's coming in, the people are so talented, and that's what I mean when I said this film has a huge cult following. I knew that if we messed it up, we would be told about it. So I guess getting compilations made in a pseudo positive light is better than people dragging us through the mud, being like, "How dare you do this?"
Was Isabelle Furman genuinely scary as Esther?
Oh, I mean, as Esther, yes. There was such a, as soon as you call action, she was in it, doing it, the whole accent, everything. But I cannot stress enough that Isabelle, after they called cut, was the sweetest, hardest working actor I've ever been with. She led that production like a tank. She is such a sweetheart. And she had just positivity until like 6 a.m. We were doing like, even after 6 a.m. I never saw her waver for a moment. Yeah, no, she's someone that I would absolutely work with again, and I aspire to be like on set, because she just radiates this can-do attitude, and like, you can do the take after another, after another, after another, and she's just as present and just as fresh. That's Isabelle. As Esther, though, yeah, of course, she's scary. She slapped me across the face in a take. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of had to be prepared and know, like, we are making something high stakes, high drama, with lots of intensity. So, like, you gun it, you do it. But yeah, no, she was Esther through and through. So cool, yeah, to play opposite someone like that, because she was just in the character totally. Yeah.
Now, I know that you mentioned that this was your first movie, so I know this is your first wide release movie in theaters. So what is it like seeing yourself in theaters?
Well, okay, sadly, I'm in Canada right now. I'm shooting another movie, and it hasn't come to theaters in Canada. So I have yet to see Orphan First Kill on a theatrical screen. I have seen myself on screen for other projects, and I can tell you it's a bit daunting. Like, I had friends that said, and we did do it. They were like, "We're gonna watch it. Like, come over." They threw me a surprise premiere, which was so really, really kind of them. They printed out the poster huge, like the same size you'd see it in a movie theater. They had all these snacks and like a bar open, and it was so nice. But I said to them, I said, "Well, I'm gonna stay up till midnight, and I'm gonna watch it the night before." They're like, "No, don't do it. We want to watch it with you for the first time." And I was like, I get so nervous whenever I'm in something, because you kind of can't control your performance at that point.
Mhm.
So I definitely stayed up. For the first time when I was watching it, I was alone in my bedroom with my laptop, just being like, oh, oh, Like I got all the reactions by myself first, which I think probably until the day I die is how I'm going to watch a lot of my movies and shows, because it is vulnerable. You know, you've handed over your likeness to an editing team, and you really don't know. Like I didn't know how Gunnar was going to turn out, because we had done so many alternate takes, where some where he was a little funny, some where he was more pathetic, some where he was meaner, if you can believe it, like a lot meaner. So yeah, when I watched it for the first time, it was alone on my laptop, just the way that you would probably stream any of your favorite shows. But when you see yourself on screen, it is a little out of body. You are like, huh, that's what I look like. Okay, cool. But all really, really good. In the end of the day, I was so proud to be part of this. And yeah, not to mention like Julia Stiles. I even told her this the very first day I met her. I was like, first of all, I think you're too young to be playing my mom. Second of all, I am a huge fan. Like I bow down. I bow down to you. And speaking of like tanks and powerhouses on set, she was like right up there with Isabelle. To be playing with these women, it was like mind-boggling. Like, yeah, I really had to pinch myself a lot of the time.
Now, you did talk about the twist earlier, but I got to ask you, what was your reaction to seeing the twist the first time you read the script?
Oh, I was like, this is brilliant, because we know that she's a child. And so the whole movie, I was like, it's just going to be the same old, same old. We're going to be the family that gets tormented.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was really wondering, like in the stage directions, it would say things like Gunnar is unenthused. Gunnar sees Esther and kind of like is not, and the lines like, I think we can do better than hey, and he's looking at her being like, I was like, why is he so suspect? His sister has just come back. So I at first was like, okay, I guess he really got used to being an only child, and he doesn't want to share the spotlight with his sister. That's what I thought. And then when I learned that he knows for a fact it's not her, I was like, oh, this has just become a whole different movie. Oh my God. Like, well, I had to reread the scene over again
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that I hadn't like messed up in reading what I was reading when it says it reveals Trisha at the detective's house. I was like, wait, what? Um, and of course, then it just became a page turner, and I read it as fast as I could just to be like, because I can't stress enough how much of a fan I was of the original. So I was like, oh my God. Like it felt like I was reading gold. I was literally like, really? I'm allowed to read this? Okay, cool, let's go.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the twist while watching. I had the same reaction to you as when you were reading. Like I was like, oh, is this gonna be? I was like really hoping that it wasn't gonna be the same as like the old movie, the 2009 movie. And so I
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
like, I'm a fan of someone. I cover movies like every day, TV shows every day, so I see everything. And the thing I hate most is a predictable movie or TV show. And I
of
was so
course.
glad. And I feel like if it didn't go with that twist, maybe a lot of people wouldn't have liked it as much as they are.
I don't think so. I think if the twist wasn't there, it wouldn't deserve to be made. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it really does show why why Esther becomes who she is with the original, and who she becomes after she meets the Albrights, and why she's more sneaky, because she kind of learns her lessons in First Kill, where like what to do, what not to do, how to attack through the children a little bit more, find the weak points there. And yeah, yeah. So I think the twist is what justified the movie being made.
I 100% agree. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there a movie that really surprised you with a plot twist that you can name off the top of your head? Because when I think about it, I think about Get Out by Jordan Peele. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I have seen Get Out. I have. That is an amazing twist. I'm trying to think now. Besides Get Out, maybe like, oh, I love this film. It came out on Netflix, actually. Do you know The Ritual?
I feel like I've seen it like years ago, or did
The
it come out?
Ritual is about like a group of four guys that go on a camping trip to pay homage to their friend who died um, in a in an incident with another one of them. There's kind of like a tragic beginning. Um, that film, the way it starts and the way it ends, it's almost two different movies, and they do such a beautiful job of sort of taking you on the journey with them, and then at a certain point it like switches and you're like, that's what this movie is. Oh my God. And kind of similarly to what you were saying, when you watch it, you're like, okay, what is this? Is this going to be another movie? But then, yeah, it really flips that. And I'd also say, I don't know if it's a twist so much, but the descent about the women who go cave diving, I love that movie too. Me and my brother watched it, and we were like, oh, like it might have been the fact that we were watching it with headphones in, and we were like in the pitch dark, and but we loved it. We loved the descent. So those two movies are up there with me in terms of really good twists.
I personally haven't seen both of those, so I'm gonna have to check them out after
You
this.
gotta check them out. You gotta check
Yeah.
them out. The first descent, descent number one. I mean, descent number two, you kind of know the gag.
Hmm.
She goes back to try and find her friends, but the first one, it kind of plays on. There's similar movies in the same way, except one is a group of guys trapped in the woods, and it's almost like the vastness of space is what's really scary. And then the other one is a group of women trapped underground, and the claustrophobia of it all is what's really, really scary.
Well, I will 100% check them out after the
Good, you
interview.
should.
I
Yeah.
gotta ask, I gotta ask, were you happy with your character's fate? And if so, would you change it if you had the chance?
Yeah, yeah. I am happy with Gunner's fate. As I was saying, the whole the way that I built him uh, hinged on the fact that I knew these were his last days. And and so he didn't know that I did. So I was like, okay, let's really crank it up a notch. Let's do this. There were some scenes that we shot that didn't make it into the final edit, which I'm totally fine with. I think the way that it was played, it's almost kind of like a piece of music, and you the what he contributed to the final score, I think really plays well. I mean, selfishly, if I could, maybe he wouldn't die. He would have just been tortured, left in the basement somewhere, so that he could be brought back for, say, another a prequel, or maybe a movie that rests between the first kill and Orphan. We see the like the in between years, but no, I'm totally happy with how he was portrayed and his whole journey and everything. Yeah.
Well, final question. Halloween is coming up. What is your go-to Halloween candy?
Oh, my go-to Halloween candy. Uh, I'm like a huge fan of Maynard's, and I think like if I get like those cherry blasters, I freaking love them. But in terms of chocolate, I like a Mars bar. Mars bar or Twix is definitely something that I love because I had braces for 5 years and headgear,
Hmm.
so I couldn't really eat anything with like the nuts in it. I shouldn't have been eating cherry blasters or Mars bars, but they were like soft enough that I could suck on and then just kind of like chew. So those are definitely my favorite. I don't really stand for the bags of chips. I feel like they get broken as you get them and you're going trick or treating, and like they
Hmm.
just open them up and they're dust. And same with the cans of pop. They get shaken up so much that when you go to open them, they like explode everywhere. Um, but no, definitely the Maynard's candies. And those nice little like mini chocolate bars, Mars or Twix, are my go-to.
It's funny that you mentioned other Halloween candies and bags of chips and everything, because I actually got like apple and bananas one year, and I was pretty pissed about that as a little kid.
No, that's not it. I mean, looking back, I there were times when I got like pencils and erasers, and at the time I was like, "What is this?" Now I would be like, "Oh, sweet! Look at this cool eraser! Like, look at this awesome pencil." But yeah, no, definitely not fruit. I don't. That's to me, that's a little sketchy. I know. I'm sure the intention is really nice behind it, but I
Hmm.
I think you need to be handing out pre-packaged food. At this point, if anybody gave me an unwrapped anything, I would probably take it out of my bag and I would set it aside. And
Yeah,
I would.
prepackaged food or money is the way to go.
Oh, yeah, I've never gotten money, but if someone gave me money, I'd be like, I'm going back to your house. Like I would literally go home, make a new costume, cover my face, and show up again and be like, hey.
Well, is there
Also,
any
the right answer is like full-size chocolate bars. A full-size chocolate
that is
bar,
the right
like
answer.
that is the win. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be like a Three Musketeer. Sorry if that's anybody's favorite. That is not one of my favorites, but like I would take it if it was full size.
Well, lastly, is there anything you'd like to say to any diehard Orphan fans who are watching this?
Oh my God, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm. We love it. It's it's just so encouraging to see something that you've worked really hard to make be well received. So keep tweeting about it, keep making those compilations. I watch them all, even if I don't get time to comment or reshare something. I guarantee you, I have seen it. I love it. The fan art, it warms my heart. Yeah, and maybe start a campaign for an Orphan 3. Who knows? Like, or some other kind of spin-off. We absolutely love it. And the film probably wouldn't exist without your support. And I mean that so wholeheartedly. If y'all weren't as enthusiastic about it, there would have been no reason to make another one. So I I owe everything to you guys. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for your time today. You can watch Matthew as Gunnar Albright in the new movie Orphan First Kill on Paramount Plus and in movie theaters. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.